Sippers, welcome to this Friday's episode of the Tea With Me podcast. I am also, you've just tuned in, but you're going, hey man, why is there a guy with a lawnmower in the same room as you? Nope, it's the builders that are working near me despite the coronavirus, and they're just doing business as usual, and I can't really go up to them and say, guys, I know you're trying to finish all this work before you have to take a 7-year break, but I'm trying to do my podcast. And they'll all go, what's a fucking podcast? And I'll go, I'm talking to the computer. And what's that? What are you talking about? It's called tea. Oh my God, I can't even deal with you. It's called Tea With Me. I'm having tea with the listeners. You know, and it's weird having to explain a podcast, but the podcast is here, and also it's back in its glorious video format. Now, a couple of minutes ago, I'm doing this in the spare room in my house, and I set up the camera, I set up the microphone into the computer, and honestly, I had a wee moment where I nearly cried, because I was so proud of me. You know, in this fucked up time that we're going to have, sometimes it's going to be about the little victories. And I looked around and I was like, I've managed to do this. Now, a lot of people are going, you should be able to do it, man. You should be able to do it. But honestly, I get boys to do it for me. Okay? I get boys to do it that know what they're doing. Big Mike, Dan, Aaron Butler, all those guys that I know, they know what they're doing, so I don't have to. My job is to look cute and talk, and I can just about do that. But today I've set it all up myself, and I feel fantastic. Now, it'll probably come out like a chipmunk. You know, I know me, I'll mug myself off, I'll put some sort of effect on it, and it'll come out totally wrong, and I'll have filmed it back to front, and we're not even recording, but don't worry about it. If you're watching the video podcast, it's on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Shane Todd Comedy, I think, or just Shane Todd. You know what, you'll find it, I believe in you. And I'll give you a wee tour of the studio. We tried to do this earlier in the week when I wasn't recording video. Because see, I have a GoPro and I was using that, and then it didn't work. And I actually have this camera. It's a bit like, I knew this camera was here. It's a psychological thing. I bought it and then I was like, I'm going to film all the time with it. And I haven't. But I'm going to start now. But I knew it was there and I was like, no, I'm not good enough. And then something within me went, pick up that camera and start shooting. Alright? Not in like a shooting people way, but like start making comedy content. And that's exactly what I'm doing. But you can actually see the wee studio this week. What's mad is I cleared this out. I know I talked about this in the podcast earlier in the week, but I cleared this room out like last week so that it can be a nursery for our baby. But then like 3 days after I did that, hey, it's a studio again. Alright, the baby's just going to have to chill, you know, in a different area. No, eventually I will have to move. I'm just going to keep downsizing until I think I'm just going to be Harry Potter under the stairs, you know, and I'm aware he wasn't churning out podcasts. You know, there was the least of his worries back then. We mom was just trying to get through the week with a fucking, what do you call that guy? Was it Percy or something? Who's that guy in Harry Potter? Who's the guy in Harry Potter? Dudley. That's exactly who it is. Harry Potter. Dudley. I hated that guy. Dudley. What's his surname? Dudley Dursley. Fucking dickhead. Dudley Dursley, if you're watching, you're a real piece of work. And Harry Potter went on to make a real success of himself. I don't know if he did, because I never actually read the last book, even though I had it and I liked them all. It was just too many pages, and it scared me as a child. But if we look around in the studio here, I've got a stroke spare room, but we're calling it a studio. We've got some shelves behind me. Okay, I've got some shelves. On it, I have some football medals. On it, I have some camera gear. I've got a doll of a basketball player that I got whenever I was a kid when I was in Florida for some unknown reason. I have a wee Oakland Raiders helmet. Again, I'm not into any of these sports. I'm not into basketball. I'm not into American football. But I made people buy it for me. There's a Tea With Me mug up there. We've got an African drum and an Old Man United scarf that my granda gave me. So what more do we want? And yes, I've got tea. And I've been drinking a lot of tea recently. And I feel like we all are going to be drinking a lot of tea for a while. So the idea of Tea With Me is you have a cup of tea with me. You know, sometimes I have guests on. I am going to figure out how to have guests on. But listen, it was difficult enough just doing this, so we'll take it one step at a time. But Tea With Me is just a podcast where ideally you make yourself a cup of tea, or if you're going to hell, you make a coffee, and we just sit down and shoot the shit, talk about what's going on. And hey, there's plenty to talk about, but I don't want to focus on the coronavirus thing. I don't want to make it dominate the podcast, because I mean, I think we're all not sick of hearing about it, because that kind of underplays it a bit, but I think we're all just like, all right, what else is going on? And the answer is not a lot, but we can just make up stuff. We can pretend that other things are important. And do you know what? I've been out a lot recently. I mean, that already will make people annoyed, because they'll be like, you shouldn't be. Listen, I am going to isolated places. I can assure you of that. But this morning we got to go to a supermarket to do a shop, and we got let in like a wee special window, not like a physical special window, but it wasn't like someone inside. It was like, mate, I work here, just come on in, I'll sort you out, because I like the Mike McGoldrick videos. No, there's a thing called a vulnerable shop, right, where people that maybe can't just go to the shops whenever are allowed to come in and do a shop before the place opens. Brilliant idea. We can avail of that because my wife is like pretty heavily pregnant. So we thought we'll go in, we'll get some things. We're not panic buying, but there is some stuff we need to get. And she doesn't want to be walking around in like a stressful shopping environment. And also, you know, I wouldn't be allowed to shop myself, because I'm the sort of guy, if my wife said, can you get us a couple of chicken fillets and a pot of beans, I would come back with beans, but they would be magic beans that I'd bought from a man in a Passat. You know, and she'd be like, what about the chicken fillets? And I would go, listen, I didn't get us the chicken fillets, but what do you think of this kayak? You know, and she would go, what the fuck are you doing? That's a mop. And I go, oh no, I need to try and get my money back. You know, so I'm not allowed to really go and do shops by myself, so it sort of worked out well. But here's the kicker. I got really mugged off, because we go in to do the vulnerable shop. You know, my wife's got the pregnancy bump. We're going in, and I'm sort of thinking, do they only let one person in? Is only my wife going to be able to go in? Do I have to wait outside? I don't know what's going to happen. I walked in front of her because I refuse to, because I'm a feminist, and I refuse to let women walk first through doors, because that's old school. You know, I don't hold doors anymore. As a man, I walk through first to set an example. And I walk on through. There's a wee sort of lady at the front of the supermarket, basically making sure that people aren't ripping the arse out of it and just coming in to do their shopping when they're like perfectly able to just go anytime. I walk in, I give her like a nod and say hello, and she goes, hello sir. I look around to basically nod at, this is my wife, as you can see she's really pregnant, that's why we're shopping here. But my wife was really far behind me, but I didn't know that. So I passed whatever test that woman had for, I'm going to look at you and see if you're vulnerable. Because she didn't see my pregnant wife, she just saw me walk in as if I was doing a shop for myself, because I had the trolley with a wee pair of gloves on. Hello! And she just looked at me and went, oh God. She went, God help this fella. What? I mean, I'd be very curious to know, or maybe I wouldn't want to know, what she thought when she looked at me was my vulnerability. You know, did she look at me and go, oh jeez, hello sir, Jesus Christ, his fingers are 9 inches long? You know, did she look at me and go, well, he's not going to be stuck for baguettes because he's got 5 in each hand? Maybe she thought, I don't know, maybe she looked at the size of my ears and thought, Jesus Christ, this fella can't go out during peak time because he hears everything. You know, he'd be too sensitive to sound because his ears are so big. I don't know, it really, really gave me a complex. And I've been like, One thing I've been trying to do in this whole quarantine thing is just work out, or like the lockdown thing, is just do a lot of workout. So I was feeling like good. I was feeling good. And then when she said that, when she said, "Hello, sir," and just let me walk in, it just knocked the wind out of my sails. You know, I was tempted to shout, "I am not vulnerable." But since that moment this morning, and my wife's like, "Listen, I'm sure it's fine." She probably thought you were shopping for an elderly relative or something. I've been wearing like a lot of blankets over my knees. That's what I feel vulnerable now. You know, I've been putting my feet in a wee bath of hot water every night. But yeah, it's just funny that I was like, oh no, there should be some sort of test for vulnerability, and I would like to think I would fail. But yeah, we didn't. We're not really panic buying. We're just getting in the sort of stuff we need. Like, I'm getting in the stuff I need, like, you know, face masks, mascara, kind of all the things I would need. Prosecco. I have a Prosecco in the trolley. You know, if I put Prosecco in the trolley, somebody would be like, I can't believe your wife's drinking Prosecco. She's pregnant. That's when I would go, nah, she's not drinking at all through the pregnancy. But bitches be thirsty, you know? So, speak for yourself. The Prosecco's for me. Move on. Dervla. Tea's great. You know, I think we're going to be drinking a lot of tea as a nation, and I think that's when this podcast is really going to take off, because people are going to go, I'm back into tea, you know, because people go away, they drift away from tea, but they always come crawling back, and when they come crawling back, they're going to find out there's an entire podcast dedicated to it, and it's this. So I've been drinking a lot of tea, but I'm trying not to overdo it, you know. But yeah, we've just been kind of, I guess, like a lot of people, trying to keep busy, trying to do things. I'm doing the show on Radio Ulster tonight. If you listen to this podcast the day it comes out on Friday, me and Dave Elliott are doing the show on Radio Ulster, and it's cool because Dave's slept in a freezer for the last 2 weeks because he's not taking any chances. So we're going to thaw him out, and then we're going to do the show. But we're going to do the show on Radio Ulster, but it just feels like, it feels a wee bit weird. And I don't know. I want people listening to, because all this should be escapism. Podcasts, I've been trying to put out like 2 sketches a day, and I'm running out of sketches after a day. After a day. How funny is it going to be like 5 days into this when my sketch is, you know, man paints radiator, and it just is that. But you know, we were like, fuck it, let's just do something different. Let's have a party. Let's get people's minds off this as best we can for an hour and a half, and our own minds as well, because look, we're all thinking about it. We're all kind of trying not to panic, and even us vulnerable people like me. And I said to the producer, Mark, of the show, I said, Mark, could we just play like 90s dance bangers for an hour and a half and just have like a bit of crack in between? And he said yes. And I said, do you need to run that by the bosses at Radio Ulster? Because, you know, Radio Ulster is like Hugo Duncan, the Nolan Show news. I said, will we actually be allowed to do that? And he goes, yeah, they'll be cool with that. And then he spoke to the bosses, and they were like, tear away, boys. So I think that is fantastic that Radio Ulster have done that, because 6 o'clock is still going to be like their like loyal listeners. And all of a sudden it's going to be, do-do-do-do-do-do, yeah. She walked up, she Maniac 2000. Why Maniac 2000 did they not finish the words? You know, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they recorded that in a car. Maybe there was like a microphone, and Mark McCabe himself just kept driving past the mic. She walked up. She. And then he stopped. She was in for a fright. Stand by. Yeah. Love Maniac 2000. What a song. Reminds me of an Energy 106 disco I went to when I was about 11. In a pair of purple jeans I got out of TK Maxx for £7. I say £7. They gave me £7 to take them out and wear them. But still. So yeah, I'm buzzing to go. That's going to be the first thing I've gone out to do, because when I say like we're going out, like there's like a few parks near us and like nature walks. So we kind of just go do that and make sure we keep our distance from people. You know, I go, move, we're coming through. And I make pensioners get out of the way. Although it's so funny because my auntie and uncle would be like quite elderly now, and we saw them out earlier in the week doing the same walk as us because it is very, very isolated. And I was like, how's it going? And then we had to have a conversation at distance. So we were like 15 feet away going, and how are you? Is yeah, oh yeah, hopefully hopefully it's all fine after a while. Just talking from a distance. And I hate that because I like close, kind of, obviously with people, but I like contact. I'm a contact guy. I like to pat people's backs. If it's a sports coach and he's passed all the police checks, I like him to pat my bum. Let's have a good game, have a good one out there. I like that. Just a little. I like that as long as he's kosher. But and we're just watching we're watching a lot of TV as well. Well, I say a lot. We're watching an hour of TV, and I talked about Love Is Blind on the podcast earlier in the week, which was absolutely class. And we watched about an episode a night, and then we watched the reunion last night, and it was so great just to see who's still married and who's not. So if you haven't watched Love Is Blind on Netflix, I would sincerely suggest that you check that out. Before we go any further, I want to plug the Patreon. So what Patreon is because I don't have any sponsors anymore because life. And so what Patreon is, it's like a way if you want to help the podcast, help me make all these sketches and stuff, because this is kind of like my job. And if you can help, great. And if you can't, listen, I totally understand. What I want you to do, if you can't help, if you're struggling financially or whatever, I want you to do this for me instead. I want you to kiss your hand, a big juicy one, right? Like one of those. I want you to kiss your hand. I want you to angle it towards the sky, and I want you to blow that over here, and it's gonna land directly into the Tea With Me temporary studio. I would like that. But Patreon, you can donate like a $5, whatever you can a month, and it just goes towards helping continue the podcast and all that kind of thing. And you get bonus podcasts. So we're going to do a bonus podcast a week, and we already have a couple recorded. The first one goes out, I want to say on Monday, but producer Dan will keep me right on that, and that'll be sweet. Because no matter what, though, I'm gonna be bringing the podcast out, bringing sketches out, because even if it's not like financial work, it's still a way for me to keep doing what I want to do. I love doing all this kind of stuff, and I'm really, really glad that we relaunched the podcast like this, Tea With Me, from the original Shane Toddcast when we did, because I love it. Whenever people send messages saying they're enjoying them, or they're listening, or people put something up on Instagram on their story, it's great. And I know sometimes with stand-up, or characters, I always do these like cocky, sort of confident characters, but in reality, people who know me know that I'm very appreciative. I'm a grateful Graham. Nobody has ever called me that. But yeah, the sketches I'll keep bringing out. I've got a wee studio here, and I'm kind of just getting familiar with cameras again. I'm making my own stuff and editing my own stuff. Of course, when all this is over, I'm going to burn my camera. When all this is over, I'm going to throw my camera at a wall and break it. But it's been good. I'm enjoying it. And I'm like kind of flat out, because even though we are like essentially self-isolating and doing the social distancing and all that, me and my wife, but from everybody else, not from each other in the same house, that'd be terrible. But it is just interesting that the second this is all over, how everything's going to be, you think everything's going to be different, but is it? Because like, I feel this whole coronavirus isolation thing, it'd be a good time for us to go away and have a think about sectarianism. If any positive could come from this, I want everyone who's like properly hardline sectarian to just sit in their houses. You've got a couple of weeks, and just go, do I need to be at this? I want us to really have a think about, is it important to not like someone because they support a different football team in Scotland? Let's take 5 minutes of our isolation time and go, do you really need to still be in the paramilitaries? I want guys coming out of this going, I went in a paramilitary, I came out a new man. You know, I want all the paramilitaries to get together. I want them to put everything. I want them to fucking take their shirts off. I want this to be a new TV Live. I want them to take their shirts off, and I want them all to start kissing. Okay, all sides, internal feuds, but the same religion, start getting off with each other across the divide. I want to see a lot of guys shirtless, necking each other in Botanic Gardens. I think that'd be a nice place for it. And look, let's just knock all that in the head. Imagine this podcast went out and this clip went up, and then just loads of paramilitary guys saw this and went, you know what, mate, he's fucking got a point there. And then it just went down in history like it was being taught in classrooms in 10 years time. You know, we used to have these things called paramilitaries, but this wee fella just basically on his podcast in his spare room said that we should knock it all in the head, and that was a big moment. It was very much our I have a dream Martin Luther King moment, where people just realised the error of their ways and came together in snog. So lads, knock it in the head, okay? Please knock it in the head. Imagine just paramilitaries coming out and being like, look, we're doing Patreons now, okay? We're just doing like merchandise and like none of the bad stuff, okay? We're just doing like nostalgia podcasts about it. I mean, that would be fun. That would be fun. Let me have some more tea. Yum yum. So yeah, I'm trying to timetable my days as well, and I actually feel, what I was saying earlier is I feel more flat out now than I did when there wasn't this lockdown, because I'm getting up in the morning, I'm doing a workout, and you're like, well, I'm not say a workout, like I'm picking 5 exercises, doing 100 reps and all, but it's not fucking workout. If you call that a workout, I don't know if you can call that a workout, but literally all the plates. I'm lifting so many plates, they call me a dishwasher. And yes, yes, that is the level that we're at. But I'm doing that, then I have my breakfast, then I'm like shooting sketches, and I'm writing, and I'm doing a bit of editing, and I'm doing the podcasts, and trying to sort of work out with people that do this kind of thing as well. Look, what can we be doing? Because I've got this wee studio facility, and I want to just keep doing stuff. So sort of trying to speak to Radio Ulster as well and saying to them, look, the money toad is sitting on his lily pad and he is available for whatevs. He's down for whatever. You want me to present the show about jazz? I'll do it. If you want us to do a crime documentary about the Krays, no better man, because I know everything about the Krays. They were identical brothers, and I think someone said they had sex together because they were both secretly gay or something. I don't know if that's true, but that is one of the things we'll look at for sure in the documentary. And then at night we kind of like we're doing a bit of like housework, and then we sort of like settle down at about 8 o'clock. And back in the day, I say back in the day, I mean like last week before coronavirus, BC before coronavirus, I would sit down from like a day's work at 6 o'clock and I'd be done, or 5 o'clock. I could be done at any time, maybe like did a bit of writing during the day, had a meeting, and that's it. But now I'm literally knocking my pan in, and I'm sitting down at 8 o'clock. I know how all you guys feel with real jobs. I sit down at 8 o'clock and I'm like, bollocks. And I barely have time to put the TV on. So I'm just going to try and keep this up because I'm enjoying it. I really am enjoying it. And I hope everybody's doing this kind of like isolating thing, like social isolating as best they can. I get that you're maybe 100% not going to be able to do it, but do it, because we dickheads listen to this, that are like just turned 18 and they'll be going to the pub, with 30 of thetheir mates looking like Blazing Squad and going, fuck, and they'll get it wrong. They'll get it wrong. They'll write up on Snapchat, fuck COVID-17. They'll tag Combat 18, So I want everyone to fucking stop doing that. Let's all just stay in and subscribe to my podcast. And if you can, donate to the Patreon. I should have given out the Patreon for sure. Don't know why I didn't do that. Patreon.com/teawithmepod. patreon.com/teawithmepod. You go on that. There's merch giveaways we're going to do every month on it. There are announcements about gigs early before everybody else, and the bonus podcast, so check that out. And also, check out podcasts from everybody, because if you're into local comedy, and by the way, let me say this as well, there is a real support for the local stand-up comedy scene, and a few of us there are self-employed. This is what we do full-time. I'm thinking Colin Geddes, Mickey Bartlett, Sean Hegarty. There's more guys that do it, and like full-time, obviously, that you know what I mean? And what I'll get like a list of everybody's podcasts, something like that, and put it out, because the point I'm making is there's such a good support in the last couple of years for the stand-up scene here, and I see people on Instagram like sending messages or whatever to, and it's just like regular people. I'm saying that like we're some sort of comedy gods, which we're definitely not, but you know, just everyday people, punters like yourselves that listen to the podcast or whatever, putting out things like, these guys have had all their gigs cancelled, check their podcasts out, or whatever. And that's class of people are doing that. Really, really appreciate it. And you know, yes, I'm putting the sketches out and all that. If the Patreon's something you can help with, great. If not, I totally understand. You know, I'm very, very, very fortunate to be able to gig a lot, do stand-up comedy a lot, and bits and pieces on the side. So, you know, we're good right now, and I think we can definitely weather this from a business point of view. But when I get back to stand-up, my God, I cannot wait to do stand-up again. I was just thinking about this earlier in the day. I was like, I would pay so much money in this financially uncertain time to just get up and perform to a crowd. And I genuinely was thinking in my head about like doing my first gigs back whenever we're allowed to do gigs again. And I'm sure I will probably cry at the end of it, because stand-up is just so amazing to be able to do it. The fact that people come out and see shows, it baffles me, because I've seen my material. No, it doesn't cease to amaze me, and I know people are going to be like, man, you're such a loser saying this, but I love stand-up, and I love that people come out and see my stand-up. I'm very, very, very fortunate for that, and I just can't wait to get up and do it, you know, because people can work from home, I can do sketches, I can do podcasts, but getting up on stage and telling jokes that may or may not work, that's the shit. That is everything to me. So I can't wait to get back and do that. Obviously when I do and I get all the gigs sorted, then you know, you'll hear about it straight away. And I think my tour will be all good. I'm not going to plug it because that might be a bit shameless. I don't want people fucking buying tickets for stuff at the minute. Keep your money for groceries and all that. But the tour happens in September, October, and I'm just going to be quietly confident that that'll go ahead until I hear any different. And I'm already buzzing for that and working on the material. So there you go. I've got loads and loads of questions. The podcasts are going to be, I'm thinking about 45 minutes, roughly about 45 minutes, because I'm going to do 2 a week, so I don't want to burn out. I say burn out, I mean I'm just talking on a sofa in my spare room, but you know what I mean. I want to keep the stuff fresh and good. So we'll probably do 2 45-minute podcasts a week, and if I can get a guest, we'll maybe do more than that. I've got listeners' questions. The camera's going to stop, and then we'll start again right now. Here we go. And we're back after a wee break, because one thing I've just found out and remembered from this camera is that it records for 30 minutes, and then you gotta hit record again. So you didn't need to know that. That's very, 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 very boring admin, but you know it now. If you don't know, now you know. Not doing the last word of that. Right. I have questions from the listeners, and cheers for these, because while there's not much going on, I'm going to need loads of questions and topics from you, and you guys have delivered. So cheers for that. These are from Twitter and Instagram. And if I don't read yours out, apologies, but I'll do it like next week if it comes in late or whatever, or I just can't see it. First question from Twitter is from Tuba, who says, what's the longest you've spent in one room, and what did you do? The longest I've spent in one room was probably when I got out of hospital about 4 years ago, because I don't know if I mentioned it, guys, but I've got Crohn's disease. I've definitely mentioned it. And we, at the time, me and my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, we rented an apartment in Sydenham in East Belfast, and it was our first place. It was the first time I'd ever moved away from home, and I basically got sick as soon as we moved into it, and then I had to come out of hospital and go straight into this apartment, so I couldn't do the move or anything. And I remember the apartment was tiny, like, but we loved it because it was, well, we kind of liked it because it was our first place, but it was just a wee box. It was a ground floor flat, and it was tiny, and I had just come out of hospital. I had this thing called post-viral fatigue that I didn't really know about at the time. So I think I mentioned this in the podcast before. I got out of hospital and was waiting to like feel better, but I just felt like I had a hangover for about a year, and 10 months of that year were spent in that apartment. So I didn't really go out much. I was like a bit of a hermit. It wasn't as dramatic as I'm making it sound. I'm making it sound like that just in case Netflix want to make a film about that time. But yeah, it was pretty crazy, man, you know. But yeah, I just spent a lot of time in there, in this wee like box living room that we had, tiny bedroom, and just spent loads of time in there watching old Royal Rumbles and doing stand-up. And I'd lost loads of weight, and I was taking drugs at the time for Crohn's disease. By the way, I wasn't like popping E's to make myself feel better, but I was taking these drugs at the time that, what were they called? Began with I, and they like really it's so sly, but they really swole up my lips, you know, and not in like a cool like Botox way, more in a like, what the fuck are you doing, you freak? Like if I had walked in with those lips to do the vulnerable shop, they would have just been like, yes, fast track this guy and don't let him pay for his shopping. Get whatever this guy wants, it's on the house, all right? It's on George of Asda, right? Because you know George has got it. So that apartment, I'd count that whole apartment as one room, and that's kind of where I've spent the longest. And what did I do? I just watched stuff on YouTube. It was grim. Like, it was so grim. I can't remember what I did. I was writing a lot of stand-up at the time because I'd had to have a long time off performing. Well, not a long time, but like 2 months, which to me at the time was the longest ever I'd gone without. And so I was just like buzzing to get back into that. So I wrote an Edinburgh show. I wrote a new hour of stand-up based on the whole experience called Sick Bro. As in when someone's like, oh bro, that's sick. I literally was sick. So I wrote a show about it, and that is on YouTube. It's I would cringe at it now, like it's still on YouTube. Shane Todd Sick Bro, and it was just about that whole experience. So when I was going through it, I was like, this is terrible now, but there is funny things happening. And I just kept a wee note of them all, and then turned it into what was a pretty cool show. First time I ever did Mandela Hall. That was like my first big sold out show, and at the time 350 people in Mandela Hall, or 450 maybe, was the pinnacle. I was like, this is it. If it all ends tomorrow, I'd be happy, and I would have been. So yeah, that's the longest. Paul Moutre says, what do you think of peppermint tea? What's your favourite type of tea? Why are there so many coffee shops and not tea shops? Paul, several questions there. We've had a few of them before, but there's no judgments here, so I'm not going to get at you for it. But I'll focus on this. Why are there so many coffee shops and not tea shops? There are tea houses, you know, like wee quaint tea houses, but I guess you don't hear loads about them now. But you do hear people going for tea. You know, we're going for high tea. We're going for high tea in the merchant. He's treating me. We're going to the merchant. He's taking me for a wee afternoon tea. You know, and it's all like refined. And people sit and have wee triangle sandwiches and wee teapots of tea, and then they go and get fucking steaming in the hard bar. Oh, this is like we're out of Downton Abbey having a wee high tea. Sit there for an hour, chug a couple of cucumber and onion sandwiches, a pot of tea, and then they go and get fucking blitzed in Benedicts. Get me that wicked, you know. So I would like to see more tea places, more wee tea bars. I like that. I think that'd be nice. I feel like if this podcast gets really successful, we could open up our own, like, you know, tea with me cafes. I think that'd be great. We have a range of tea bags, all that. I mean, I'm joking about that, but I genuinely would like that and I think that'd be great and I would love it. Daniel, thanks for your question. Daniel Houston, friend of the show, says, would you rather lose an arm and a foot or a leg and a hand? So lose an arm and a foot or a leg and a hand. Oh, I'm going to go with an arm and a foot because I like to get round and like run. I know I can't do it if I'm missing a foot. Jesus, Daniel, you've really mugged me here. I don't know, man. It's a difficult one. Ideally, I keep both my feet, both my legs, both my hands, and both my arms. But which is like the new remix of Hokey Cokey. But I'd rather lose fuck. I mean, if I lose my hand, is my arm that much good to me anyway? And no disrespect to anyone who's lost hands or arms. Hands or arms sounds like a German bad guy in a Die Hard film, but I'd rather lose the foot. Yeah, but then again, if I've got a foot, fuck off. Fuck off's the answer to that. Daniel, you've done me there. Congratulations, sir. I've no response to that. Keith Mack says, good on Keith. Like a load of people sent me messages a couple of days ago saying congratulations on the old baby news. So thanks very much for that. I really enjoyed reading those, and yes, I'm very, very excited, and it should be really great. There you go. And that's the only time I'm gonna be nice on this podcast, but yeah, I appreciate it. Cheers. Anyway, Keith goes, do you actually cold shower, and how do you not freak out? It's a tad mental. Yes, I have ice cold showers. I've talked about this in the podcast before. Every day, every single day, I have an ice cold shower. I don't turn the heat up as I go. I don't start on a high heat and bring it down. I go in while the shower is on its coldest setting, and it makes you go, oh, the first few times you have it. All right, oh, which is a bit like Tom Jones. Oh, spy on me, baby, you satellite. Oh, right. Yes, I do. Why do I do that? Because I read one article online that said like it's good for your blood or something. So I went, all right, let's run with that for every day of my life from now on that I'm fully committed to. And I remember when a couple of weeks ago, Aaron Butler and Rory Woods went up to the Galgorm, and the water was really warm, but I really wanted to go in it, and I said to them, I haven't been in hot water in years. And they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? I said, literally, I don't have baths. I just have cold showers every day for years. So I was like, oh, all right, I'll get in. And then I got in and my skin went kind of a bit red, like all over. And I said to them, guys, show me I'm not being mental here. Look at my skin. Is this red? And they went, yes, it is. And I said, I'm going to just stick to the cold. So how do I not freak out? That's a good question. I put on music really loud on my phone, and I sort of like body pop, sing and dance my way into it. Genuinely, 9 out of 10 times it's the Greatest Showman album. So come alive, and then I sing that, and I'm dancing like Hugh Jackman in I Am the Greatest Showman, Big Barnum himself, and I just get in and I sing and dance while I'm under the water, and I usually stay in there for like the duration of one song and wash all over. It's a tad mental, yes, it absolutely is. But give it a go. Fuck it, we all have time in our hands. Everyone get in a cold shower, and then when this is all over, let's all get in a cold shower together. Am I right? D McHugh says, trying to get in shape over the old quarantine. As you yourself have the body of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, doth thou have any tips? Well, yes, I do. Well, I'm not really The Rock. I'm more like the Skimmer. You know, so it's like it's not a rock, but it's like a thin stone, but it's still fucking stone. You know, so I don't know if you mean that sarcastically, but at the minute, body wise, I'm as ripped as a secondhand condom. There you go. That's a real statement that I've made, and I stand by it. I'll stand by you. Here's this is mental. Yesterday we're out for a walk, and we're walking up this like forest path up this pretty steep hill, and I said to my wife, the most 10-year-old thing anyone's ever said. Bear in mind, I'm 31. I said, do you want to just take a seat over there on that bench, and I'm just going to like run up this hill a load of times? And she's so used to me now that she went, okay. And I did like 10 hill sprints. I did 5, then took a break, like with a wee break in between, and then she timed me. I would clap my hands at the bottom. This, you really have to make your own fun in quarantine. I would go to the bottom of the hill, go, yep, I'm ready, clap my hands. She would start timer on her phone. I run up the hill, tap the bench, she would stop it, and I would try and beat my time every time, because I was going to do some sort of run to keep the old joints moving, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. So I'm doing workouts in the garden. I got some weights, some equipment. I've got like a cable band. I've got 2 like press up handles, for like a deeper press up. Oh my god, I'm such a dick. Man, just because you always want to hit that deeper press up, And I've got a barbell, I've a couple of free weights, so I'm well stocked up, and I'm loving that. I'm just setting myself wee workouts every day. I might post them up. I did it yesterday, and a lot of people slagged me off for the day before, being like, "What are you doing, mate? You're a comedian." But why not? If someone like you, man, gets any benefit out of it, I'll stick them up. My tips are, do a workout every day and just be creative. Like my mate Stevie, before we went on holiday once, he was looking to sort of get a good few workouts in, and at this stage he didn't have any workout equipment really, so he had a gas canister, like a big cylinder, big outdoor one, and just did curls on that and a couple other things around the house. So I would say just get creative with it, but do it. I'm going to do a workout after this, because we had to go and do the vulnerable shop this morning. I'm going to do a workout after this before the radio show, and just doing it in the garden, and it's good fun, and I sort of feel like I'm in prison in a way, and part of me feels like if I stop working out, I'm going to get sick, and that's a weird thing, and it's not true, but it's what I'm doing, so do it too. Johnny Lindsay says, ever met any local celebs like McElroy, Dornan, Nesbitt, etc., and chatted to them about Mike McGoldrick stories, or are any of them actually true? That's funny. So Mike McGoldrick, if you don't know, I'm only joking, everybody knows. Mike McGoldrick is a character that I do, a posh North Down socialite character, and he always talks about his close personal friends like McElroy, Dornan, Nesbitt. And so have I met them before and talked to them about Mike McGoldrick? Yes, I've met McElroy, Dornan and Nesbitt. I met McElroy. I was always aware of Rory McIlroy kind of growing up, because we're from the same small town of Hollywood, and you always kind of knew about him as like, oh, he's always playing golf. He's a great golfer. So you sort of knew him as that, but like I didn't like know him. I think we all had a kickabout in the estate, White City, once. He lives right beside that. Oh, he used to. And I think I remember that standing out once whenever I was a kid. But everyone in Hollywood also claims to be his best mate. Oh, mate, I used to do karate with him. What? No, you didn't. And but we followed each other on Twitter. I obviously followed him anyway. And then when the McGoldrick stuff was really popping, and I was doing a lot of it, and then when it was quite new out, he followed the account, and I think he still does. I don't use that account anymore, but he still follows it. And I played indoor football with him a couple of times, just by chance with friends, and I didn't want to ask him. This is about 5 years ago. Maybe more. I didn't want to ask him there and then, because I guess people like him get asked for stuff and to do stuff flat out, and it could be a bit of a melt. And I thought, he's with all his mates here. I'll maybe just not hassle him. And then I saw him a couple of nights after that in Hollywood. I think it was around Christmas. And we were on a night out separately, obviously. And we got chatting, and I maybe mentioned it. I was like, look, I'd love to do a sketch with you, a video sometime if you're ever up for it. And he said, yeah. And true to his word, we sorted it out on Twitter, and we did a video, Mike McGoldrick meets Rory McIlroy, which was really funny, I think. And he was just the best guy. He didn't. First of all, he doesn't have to do it. He's not getting anything out of it, and a load of views on YouTube. He's not getting anything out of this, so he's given up his time when he's home, which he doesn't get to be home a lot. But he gave me his time. Didn't have to go through managers, agents, anything like that. Gave me his number. He's like, look, we'll just arrange this, whatever you want to do. And this always stands out to me. The first time, when we sat down, I said to him, is there anything off limits here? Because his private life was being written about all the time, like complete intrusion. And I said, is there anything off limits? Because look, I might not know the crack with something and make a joke and he could get offended. And he said, take the piss out of me in whatever way you want. And as soon as he said that, I was like, that's a real guy. That's a real guy. And hey, I did take the piss out of him, and he was brilliant about it. So he was great, and I've only really met him a handful of times since. We're not like regularly in contact, but every time I've met him, he is very, very like polite. He's very like engaging, and sportsmen and people like that like live in just a different world. But when you're chatting to him, you're just chatting to a regular guy. I think the last time we were chatting, he just got engaged. I just got engaged, so we were talking about that, and just had a good natter. So he's a proper nice guy in my book. Jamie Dornan, pretty much the same. Mutual follow on Twitter. When he tweeted the McGoldrick video when it first came out, and he hadn't done like that much acting at that point, but had done all the Calvin Klein ads and all that kind of thing, and was doing some acting, but wasn't the household name he is now. And he retweeted one of the videos, which was such a cool thing to do. And then when things kind of blew up for him, he still would have chatted. Like, we would email the very odd time, less and less now, obviously, considering how busy he is and how little downtime he probably gets with his family. But now and again still chat, and again just an absolute gentleman whose life has been changed. Like, he was well known before, and now, global megastar kind of, but still will drink in the usual bars in Hollywood and chat to people. And yeah, very, very funny as well. Would love to do like a sketch with him. Would love to do something. I think it'd be good, and I think people would enjoy it. But again, very polite, very nice guy. Jimmy Nesbitt. I did a gig. I'm going to tell this story really quickly because I think I did it before on the podcast not that long ago. I got booked as Mike McGoldrick to do Paddy Wallace's testimonial dinner. Paddy Wallace, a rugby player, in Titanic Belfast about 5 years ago. I go, and Paddy's partner says to me, the singing waiter's coming on, but nobody else knows about it bar me and you. So at the end of your set as Mike McGoldrick, so Jamie Dornan and Rory McIlroy are there, I roast everybody. It goes okay because not everybody knows who or what Mike McGoldrick is. So like quite a few people are like, this guy's so rude, But at the end of my set, I have to say to this guy who's standing looking like a chef, just watching from the side, I have to say to him, take my pint off stage. I'm not doing it by myself. He's the singing waiter, so me and him are in on it. Okay? Only me and him though. Jimmy Nesbitt's hosting. Nesbitt has had stouts. Shocker. Nesbitt has had a few drinks. Alright? It's later on in the night. I go to walk off stage as Mike McGoldrick. Hundreds of people there. I say to this poor chef, but bear in mind he's in on the joke. I go, he's an opera singer. I go, mate, grab this pint here before I go. This is on the microphone. Everybody's like, oh, that's so rude. They think he's saying it in his character voice, but he means it. And the guy's like, no. And I was like, well, just fucking take it, because remember, this is the thing. This fucker milked it for about 7 minutes, and it was a standoff, and I'm on the mic going, mate, take the pint. And he's like, oh no, I just work here. And I'm like, you fucking don't. And I'm like, you fucking don't remember? I think he thought he was a chef there. He was that good an actor. And I was like, take this pint. Jimmy Nesbitt's hosting. Nesbitt goes up to take the pint himself. Jimmy Nesbitt sees enough of this, sees that people in the audience are like, what a rude bastard making the chef do that. In my head, I'm like, he's not the fucking chef. He's not the chef. He's going to be singing Nessun Dorma in about 3 minutes. But you don't even know that. I say it so many times that Jimmy Nesbitt, the host, who's a bit blitzed, walks past me, grabs my pint, and says to me just, I'll take your fucking pint. I'm going, why is this? I look like the worst guy since Hitler. I was like, why is this singing waiter not come up and taking the pint himself? He eventually like shakes hands with Jimmy, walks past me, gets up. He's like, sorry folks, I'm just the chef. Then he's like, no, starts singing opera. Everyone's like, that's amazing. He was actually a thing. But it went on that long that they forgot that I was in on it. So after the set, I'm in the bar. And people are like, mate, that was sly what you did to that chef. And I'm like, mate, do you not remember? He's not a chef. But he's not a chef. Remember? I was in on it with him. And they're like, yeah, whatever you say. So that is the only time I've really met Jimmy Nesbitt. And I think that will always be in his head that I made that chef do that. But then Jimmy, if you're watching, remember, he was a singer. He was not really a chef. And funny enough, I spoke to Jimmy Nesbitt about 2 weeks ago and asked him to do this podcast, and he said yes. And obviously when all this stuff gets sorted and we get back to normal, I'll get Nesbitt on the podcast. Don't worry. I promise that's true. He said yes. Becky Elliott says, what do I do now with my time, seeing as I have no A levels to revise for? Honestly, learn a language. I think I say that, I plan to do that, and I will not do that, but I would like to see people learn languages. Like let's do like Latin. Let's do extinct languages. Let's do African like languages. I said accents. I don't mean that. Let's play Becky. Whatever you do, don't walk about doing African accents, for the love of God. But yeah, we could learn languages, you know, but like crazy languages, and do that. I don't know. I think have fun, but also do learn other things that aren't school related. You know, if you do need to be doing schoolwork, do that. Keep like revise, do whatever. And for like younger kids, definitely you're gonna need to keep learning in some way. But you know, learn how to fix a tire. People, I don't know why I turned into Trump. Okay, but I want everyone to, if you've been revising for your levels, fix tires. Okay, but yeah, we should all learn. I mean, I know how to fix tire, but we should learn how to do stuff like that. So let's all learn how to sew. I don't know how to sew. Cooking, all things like that. I think we should take this time to learn practical things. And I say that I'll do none of it. But Becky, pick up a new hobby, I think, and just roll with that and see what happens. Maybe start doing a martial art and just spend 22 hours a day learning it, and then at the end of it just go into UFC. This is an anonymous question. What are your thoughts on a double bagger, 2 tea bags, 1 cup? I mean, to me, 2 tea bags, 1 cup is more explicit and disgusting than 2 girls, 1 cup. Don't double bag, especially at this time of crisis. 1 tea bag a cup, for the love of God. Olivia Reed says, talk about conspiracy theories. I'm going to make a note to do that on the next podcast. I'll look at some of the biggest conspiracy theories out there and give my take on it. So Olivia, that's a great call, but I'm going to roll it over if that's okay for the next podcast. We have 2 more questions. It's Morton says, if you had to live somewhere other than NI, where would you choose? And any opinions on Edinburgh? First of all, love Edinburgh. Great city. I like cities where there's an old part and a new part, and Edinburgh has that, so I think it's a cool place. And I'd like to get back there at some point. If I had to live somewhere other than NI, where? America. USA. I'd probably live in LA, if it was practical. Because I'm a bit of a home bird. You know, we're about to have a baby. And we, you know, we've got family, we've got friends. But just off the top of my head, I'd love to live in LA. Because I could do gigs. I could be a top action film actor. And it's sunny and all that. So, yeah, probably LA. Last question. Owen Tier says, how you keep busy during isolation? I've probably answered that on this podcast, but just making videos, making sketches, doing all my wee funnies, you know that, and just spend a bit of quality time with my wife. So, yeah, just sort of messing about. I'm just doing the things I would normally do, but kind of more of them, and not any other things. You know, like I'm not going out to going out to the gym or anything like that. So just trying to keep it all normal, you know. But it won't be. I mean, this podcast in 3 weeks, God knows what I'll be doing. I'll be totally nude, you know, just talking about Russian abstract painting. Guys, thanks very, very, very much for listening to or watching the podcast. The podcast is everywhere. I put the link up to it. You can get it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. I'm going a bit faster here because I need to pee so bad. And the video podcast on YouTube as well comes out twice a week. Tea with me. I also do the Boytown podcast every Thursday with Dave Elliott, and it'll be back next week, right back at you. We're going to do that over the phone, but it'll still hopefully sound pretty good. Thanks for listening to Tea With Me. Patreon.com/teawithmepod if you want to really support the podcast. I'd appreciate that. And you can check it out and see what's available. Thank you very much for listening and watching. See you. Send your questions in. Oh, forgot about this. We have an email address, which is teawithmepod@gmail.com, and you can send voice questions in, and we'll do those next week. Thanks for listening and watching. Get that kettle on.